don't want peace. I want problems.
Bitcoin just reached over $100,000, but it is not too late for you to get in. Let me play this video for you so you can see why you are still early into this.
What distinguishes this, the digital capital?
Look, when we saw digital photos transform, a lot of people didn't get the fact that Kodak was going to get replaced by Instagram and Facebook, but they get digital photos. Digital capital is what happens when your long-term store of value goes from a building or goes from a portfolio of stocks to a digital asset like Bitcoin. Bitcoin represents the digital transformation of hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital in the world.
Right.
No one expected to see it, so they don't quite get what it's going to be, except for the fact it's worth all the money in the world.
So let's talk about that, because you do have you have a couple of slides showing assets around the world. First, okay, let's start with this from again, geared toward Microsoft, but some critics would say when you talk about digital capital being economically and technically superior, no tax. I mean, that doesn't mean it can't be taxed in certain jurisdictions at some point. No torts. You know, legal issues are going to come up. No regulator. I mean, these are great points, but are they forever points?
The point is, I got $100 million in New York City and I buy a building. I got to worry about someone slipping and falling on the sidewalk and a property tax. But if I can snap my fingers and teleport the building to Zambia, Central Africa, or to Monaco, all of a sudden it's a teleportable building. And of course, if I don't have any tenants in the building, I don't got to worry about them defaulting.
Right,
so digital capital is the ability to move the money at the speed of light anywhere on Earth and program it on a computer. There's a lot of people that are going to want that rather than having, you know, pick a country in Africa where you want to invest your life savings in a building.
Right.
Forever.
Yeah, let's say Angola.
Right, and what happens if the government fails? You lose everything.
Exactly.
But if you could put the building in your pocket and go to the place where you like the government, maybe you get to keep your money.
Great. Let's talk about how it's going to grow. So in your presentation, you have this slide twice. The first one, right now, Bitcoin is $2 trillion. You're saying in 21 years, $280 trillion. How do we get there?
What I'm saying is the wealth in the entire world is growing because of innovation, because of technology, but also because of inflation. And people are thinking to sell their Central African real estate to buy Bitcoin, or sell their Siberian natural gas to buy Bitcoin, or sell their Argentine currency to buy Bitcoin. So as people migrate their capital into this global monetary asset, that asset class is going to grow faster
than the rest
than
of
equity, faster than gold, faster than real estate.
But also, did I read somewhere that you're saying each Bitcoin would be worth the equivalent of $13 million?
Yeah, well, when you crank in the growth rate, which for me, the base case is 29% a year on average for 21 years, that gets you from where we are today to 13 million a coin in the year 2045.
All right, so we've talked about the financial parts of this. You and I have had great conversations in the past about the humanitarian part of this, right? And I want to talk about that. You just mentioned Africa, for instance. Bitcoin's philosophy and political promise. This is an article from 2022. It's not just a decentralized peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It's more, right? This is what this article is saying. And it's going to have an impact on economies, philosophy, politics, human rights, and society. That is huge to live up to.
Bitcoin is a protocol for prosperity. Fire, electricity, steel, English, mathematics. You would give them to the world. Bitcoin is an economic protocol. Once you master Bitcoin, you can figure out how to save your wealth, how to economically prosper. It works for a country, a company, a family, an individual. Nobody owns it. It's a utilitarian, egalitarian entitlement, just a good for the world. That's why I'm so enthusiastic about it.
And particularly underdeveloped nations, right? I mean, this is what we're really talking about, a way for them to catch up. I mean, right now, if you're an underdeveloped nation and you want to try to catch up, you're at the whims or the mercy of the IMF or the World Bank, who, quite frankly, they have rates sometimes that are like, that makes the mafia blush, right? I mean, to me, you're always going to be an underdeveloped nation if you have to go to the World Bank to borrow money.
If you're a type 1 diabetic...
Yo, it is crazy. Wait, hold on. Did he just compare the IMF to the mafia? Because I feel like I've always thought that he was... Well, hold on.
I mean, right now, if you're an underdeveloped nation and you want to try to catch up, you're at the whims or the mercy of the IMF or the World Bank, who, quite frankly, They have rates sometimes that are like that makes the mafia blush, right? I mean, to me, you're always going to
Damn.
be an underdeveloped nation if you have to go
Yo, because I've always thought the IMF was like literally like the most evil institution of all time. But the fact that he's saying that shit on camera, that's crazy. Whoo.
to the World Bank to borrow money.
If you're a type 1 diabetic, you can eat continuously and you'll starve to death because you cannot store organic energy. If you don't have a capital asset like Bitcoin, I can send billions or tens of billions of dollars to Africa. You can make billions. The money will just drain out of your capital structure because you're storing it in a currency which is collapsing faster than you can actually generate it.
Will large industrialized countries allow this to live up to its promise? It's one thing to say it's a $2 trillion asset. It's another to say, hey, eventually this will replace fiat currency, which a lot of folks believe it will.
I think you got to keep in mind money bifurcates into currency, the medium of exchange, of which the dollar is the world reserve currency, and capital, the store of value, of which right now real estate and equity portfolios are the world reserve capital. Bitcoin is emerging to compete with equity and real estate as world reserve capital. But those Africans, they can't buy real estate in the US. They can't buy equity in the New York Stock Exchange. It's global capital. And once you understand that, you realize that every nation that respects property rights is going to support Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you go communist, full-on socialist, North Korea, Cuba, they're going to expropriate your property. But any place where people respect property rights and they give you a chance for capitalism and freedom, they're going to allow you to have Bitcoin. And the competitor really is, the Vanguard 500 is going to get demonetized a little bit. And then instead of buying a real estate portfolio and a third apartment, you buy some Bitcoin. And I don't think that's threatening to anybody.
Yo, this is a great interview, honestly. Like, listen, Bitcoin right now, only a $2 trillion asset. Remember when Bitcoin was only a $1 trillion asset below Meta, Silver, and Saudi Aramco? Now it already surpassed all three of those. Now it's going after Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple. I mean, a lot of people may think that this is a little extreme, but like if you don't study it and you don't understand it, you'll probably think that it's like, fairy tales, it's not real. But listen, he said that the base case for Bitcoin, his base case is 29% every single year for the next 21 years, he said. So for the next 21 years, if his bare minimum, his bare case is 29%. Imagine if you have, let's say you cannot afford one Bitcoin and you have 0.1 Bitcoin, which is about $10,000 right now, right? So if you just put $10,000 for the next 20 years, growing at 29% per year, and you never put a dime in it ever again, your $10,000 would be worth $2.1 million in 21 years. So imagine for a guy like me or a bunch of people like my age. I'm currently 31 years old. I've got 21 years. I can wait 21 years. Imagine like you have a bunch of the younger generation. They're like, "Oh, so you're telling me that if I put my money in the bank, they're only gonna give me 0.45, this 0.5% interest. But if I actually save into Bitcoin instead for the next 21 years, I can get a way higher returns than that." You really think people are gonna want to keep their money in the bank? I mean, if you want to keep your money in the bank, hey man, you go right ahead. But me, other than my emergency savings, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Let me show you another video of somebody asking Jerome Powell about what he thinks about Bitcoin and if he thinks that Bitcoin is competing with the US dollar.
Or in the Federal Reserve itself, in terms of the system. What do you think of that idea?
I don't think that's how people think about it. I mean, it's so, people use Bitcoin as a speculative asset, right? It's like gold. It's just like gold, only it's virtual. It's digital. People are not using it as a form of payment or as a store of value. It's highly volatile. It's not a competitor for the dollar. It's really a competitor for gold. That's really how I think of it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. See how he doesn't want to say that it's a scam. He knows it's not a scam, but he says it's not a competitor to the dollar because people are not using it to buy things with, which is actually wrong. People are actually using Bitcoin to buy things, and people are actually using Bitcoin as a store of value because the value increases over time. So he is literally BSing on television right now, and also he's comparing it to gold. Can you imagine the chairman of the Federal Reserve comparing Bitcoin, something that most people think that a lot of people think that Bitcoin is still a scam, and he's comparing Bitcoin to the most valuable asset in the world on live TV. That's in that like I don't think y'all get this. And also, let me show you guys one more video. Actually, this was yesterday. This was somebody asked President Putin. By the way, I don't support any wars or anything. This is not to be. This is not supposed to be a political channel. I just want to show you guys what Putin thinks about Bitcoin. Hold on.
Биткоин кто может запретить?
Who can ban Bitcoin? Nobody.
Никто. А использование других электронных
Who can prohibit the use of other electronic means of payment? Nobody.
средств расчета? Кто может запретить?
Никто.
Никто, потому что это новые
Hold
технологии.
on. I don't think. Hold on.
И
Let
что
me
бы ни
play that
было,
one more
что бы ни
time.
происходило, биткоин кто может запретить?
Никто.
Никто. А использование других электронных средств расчета? Кто может запретить?
Никто.
Никто, потому что это новые технологии. И чего бы ни было, чего бы ни происходило с долларом, эти инструменты так или иначе будут развиваться, потому что все будут стремиться к тому, чтобы снижать издержки и повышать надежность.
Listen.
Биткоин кто может запретить?
If Putin figured it out, guess what every other country is gonna start doing? You think America is gonna be the only country buying Bitcoin? Are you out of your you think that $100,000 is where we're gonna stop? Nah, man. Like, yo, we are just now starting. Like, listen, I want you to take a photo of this slide right here. One Bitcoin right now, I mean not right now, but one Bitcoin is contains 100 million satoshis. I know a lot of people cannot afford one Bitcoin, and that is absolutely fine. I want you to start thinking of about accumulating satoshis instead. Instead of thinking like, oh, I need to buy one Bitcoin, think of accumulating satoshis instead. So, for example, if you can afford 0.1 Bitcoin, which is 10 million satoshis, that would cost you $10,000. If you do not have $10,000, then try to get 0.01 satoshis, which would cost you $1,000. That is 1 million satoshis. If you cannot afford $1,000, try to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin for um $100,000 of Bitcoin, which is 100,000 satoshis. And if you cannot afford that, try to get $10 of Bitcoin as much as you can, as many times as you can, which would be 10,000 satoshis. Right now, I've been using this app called Swan Bitcoin, and the first $10,000 of Bitcoin that you buy will have no fees. So I really enjoy it, and they make it very easy to set up the buys automatically. They are not a sponsor of this channel. I've just been using them, and I really like it's very easy and simple to like start the process. Imagine this, right? People think that, oh yeah, Bitcoin is already at $100,000, but like only less than 2% of the world's population owns Bitcoin. That, like, I want you to think about this for a second. That's absolutely insane. Like, literally, like nobody, like if you walk down the street, only one out of like maybe one out of 50 people that you talk to is gonna be like, oh yeah, I have some Bitcoin. Like, probably around my block in my neighborhood, I'm probably the only one who's investing into Bitcoin, honestly. And it's the most it is honestly going to become the most valuable asset in the world. But most people are probably not gonna hear about it until it reaches $1 million. So don't listen to these stupid people on the internet telling you that Bitcoin is a scam. Don't listen to these stupid financial advisors telling you that no, you should not take the risk to invest into Bitcoin, go do your own research. Go read the book, The Bitcoin Standard. Go read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. The Bitcoin Standard will tell you a lot about what is money and how money was created and how Bitcoin works basically. And The Creature from Jekyll Island will tell you a lot about how the Federal Reserve was created, and also how the banks operate basically. This is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. I want you to know that the money supply increases on average at a rate of almost 7% every single year. So if you keep your money in the bank earning 0.5% a year, you are literally you are literally putting your money in the toilet and flushing it. Literally, do not make this mistake. This is the first time ever that we have an asset that does not discriminate. Usually when there is a big asset with a lot of potential, the big institutions are usually the ones who they usually are the ones who are like buying it first, and then they give us little crumbs. Right now you have the opportunity to build wealth for your family. Do not mess this up. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. You remember, like, you see when Bitcoin was like $200, $600, $1,000. You see how flat this thing was back in the days. Let me show you a little something. In 20 to 30 years, this graph is gonna be extremely flat. You won't even remember $1,000, and we're gonna be talking about millions of dollars of Bitcoin. This is what this graph is gonna look like. We're gonna be talking about millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Like $1,000 is gonna be nothing in 20 years. Like we won't even remember that I made this video. Like this is gonna be like, oh yeah, it's like it's gonna be like those people that were talking about Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $100, $1,000. Nobody's gonna remember $1,000 in 20 years. So listen, you literally have a once in a lifetime opportunity. Do not mess this up. Listen, if Bitcoin ever crashes down to like, I think, I personally, I mean, I can't predict the future, but I think that Bitcoin might take a little dip down to $73,000 at some point if we happen to go into some sort of like World War III or something like that. Maybe we'll take a little dip down. We might even drop to like this $50,000 level. Hey, who knows? If this happens, if Bitcoin drops down to $50,000, I don't think we will ever see below $49,000 ever again. But if we do, guess who's gonna be buying? This guy right here. I'm gonna be buying. The only thing that would stop me from buying is if the circulating supply increases from like 21 million to like 22 million. Then it's like, okay, well, I guess the protocol is corrupt and it's no longer a good asset to invest in. But as long as nothing changes fundamentally with Bitcoin, every single time the price drops, I'm buying. I'm gonna sell something, and I'm buying the dip. I'm gonna be buying the dip. I'm gonna be buying the top forever. I'm gonna be buying the dip forever. I'm currently I'm buying. I used to buy $5 a day. Now I'm buying $10 a day. Right now, my priority is trying to prepare for the future because I do not want to work until I am 75. A lot of people cannot retire because inflation is killing them. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your family. Do not mess this up. Like I said, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And you know what? If you don't take this risk, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you might be